Be reading from 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 16 through 21. Before I get started, I want to give honor to my pastor and the pastoral team. I am truly honored to be up here. There are better preachers, there are better people here that could be up here. Give honor to Pastor Walter, who is visiting. Lastly, but not leastly, I want to give honor to my wife. Why a woman would stand behind me the way she does, I will never know. Second Samuel chapter 6, verse 16 states, "And the ark of the Lord came into the city of David. Michal, Saul's daughter, looked through a window and saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, and she despised him in her heart. And they brought in the ark of the Lord and set it in his place in the midst of the tabernacle that David had pitched for it. And David offered burnt offerings, peace offerings before the Lord. And as soon as David had made an end of offering burnt offerings and peace offerings, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord of hosts. And he dealt among all the people, even among the whole multitude of Israel, as well as the women, as men, to every one a cake of bread and a good piece of flesh and a flagon of wine. So all the people departed, every one to his house. Then David returned to bless his household, and Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, How glorious was the king of Israel today, who uncovered himself today in the eyes of the handmaids of his servants, as one of the vain fellows shamelessly uncovereth himself. And David said unto Michal, It was before the Lord, which chose me before thy father and before all his house, to appoint me ruler over the people of the Lord, over Israel. Therefore will I play before the Lord." I should have said 22 as well. "And I will yet be more vile than this, and will be more base in mine own sight, and of the maidservants which thou hast spoken of them shall I be had in honor." You may be seated. Some of you who have been here a little bit would tell me, you've heard this before. I had a whole nother sermon, a whole nother set of notes prepared. God kind of spoke to me a little something different. We know that this passage of Scripture talks about bringing the Ark of the Covenant home. How there was trouble before. Hit a little bump, somebody stopped it, and he died. So they had to put it in someone else's house for a short period of time. Then they decided to bring it home. This time, David decided he was going to offer offering or sacrifices. He was going to stop and worship God. The Bible tells us that he took off his kingly garment. That he wasn't actually naked, but like I said, he took off his kingly garment and he began to dance and worship before the Lord. Now, I'm a firm believer that what David said to Michal came out a whole lot more like, "Woman, hold my mule." Now, there's no evidence that there were animals in the house of the king. But I'm referencing an old Shirley Caesar song. I believe it's a story about a man named Shouting John. I believe that John was an apostolic. That he moved to a town of no apostolic churches. He found himself in an unapostolic church. And he would get to worshiping, and he would get to praising. And they would stop him. They would sit him down, and as he sat down, his hands would get to moving. They'd stop his hands, and his feet would get to moving. He said one day that they came out onto his field. The deacons all came out in their nice clothes and their Cadillacs. He was a farmer. And said, "We need you to stop shouting." He looked at him and said, "I'm an 87-year-old man. I'm still plowing my own field." He said, "All my children, I have not one time been to the courthouse over them. Haven't buried any of them. And you want me to stop shouting?" He looked at them and he said, "Hold my mule, because I'm going to shout right here." Forgive me for a moment. Something's just built up within me. You can tell me, Brother Myers, we know you. We know of all your mistakes. But you also know of how God has blessed me. You go ahead and talk about how human I am, and I'm going to talk about how good He is. Forgive me for a moment. I just gotta, oh, hallelujah, 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 oh, hallelujah, hallelujah, oh, hallelujah.